Hello, I'm Sharice White, and welcome to my channel where we talk about holistic homemaking, pairing biblical homemaking with holistic tips and tricks to make your home healthier. So, today we're going to be talking about why I made the decision to go from being a full time naturopathic doctor, seeing patients full time, and all of that, and then making that switch to being a stay at home mom. So, stay tuned. You want some? There we go. Your snack be my snack. All right, so this has been a question that I've not gotten directly, but more so received on the back end of people sort of asking, like, what are you doing now? Oh, you're not in this office anymore, and them just kind of being bewildered by the fact that I tell them that I'm at home with my kids. And some people totally get it because usually it's other women that have been stay-at-home moms before, or obviously like men who have had wives who have done that. But I would say probably more of a majority is totally confused as to why I'm taking the route that I am. So here's a video to kind of explain a little bit of what my reasoning was behind it. Getting into my first reason. So per usual, I'm going to go off my notes. I think the first one was the call. And I feel like this can be a little cliched wording, but I felt a true calling to it. And all I can say is that motive matters regardless of what you're doing. So when I was studying to become a doctor, and even when I was an undergrad, I kind of had this really confused, vague idea about what I wanted in life. And not much of it was clear. I just knew certain strengths that I had, and then I knew about certain options that I had. I was always someone who was decent at school, and I found certain sciences interesting, especially when it comes to natural and holistic medicine. That kind of came up at the end of my undergrad. So I took an interest and decided to make a career out of it, which is not a crazy thing to do. A lot of people do that. But I can't say that I felt like God had called me to that and that I was pursuing this in order to pursue something that I know he had for me. Now, God works all things for the good. So amazing things have happened from that. And I have truly enjoyed my time. But I will say being a homemaker and really strengthening who I am as a woman, as a daughter of God, and letting that trickle into my being a wife and a mother. That was when I prayed, like that was the area of peace that God said, this season, this is what you're supposed to be doing. This is your calling. Like, this is your ministry. Pour into it and pour into it harder than you ever thought you would. And I kind of just followed that, and I found so much peace in it. For years, I thought I just was confused as to why I didn't know, feel like I knew what I wanted from life. Like even my husband, at the very beginning of our marriage and dating, would ask me like, "What do you want? What do you want?" And I was just like, "I don't know." If I was being honest, I had a lot of different ideas of things I could do. I'm a very creative person, so I had ideas that would pop up and say, "I could do this, I could do that," but I wouldn't feel a draw to them. And then this was like one of the first things in a long time that I felt a draw, like this is happening and there's an assurance and a peace behind it. So I could tell the Holy Spirit was just solidifying and confirming this for me. And when I started doing it, and wanting to own it and get really, really great at it, I realized I'm like, oh my gosh, God is trying to reveal this to me that this is what I need to be doing. So I would say that there was a calling in it. And then there's tons of biblical confirmation about how, you know, our role as a wife, and what God sees fit as, raising kids and wanting us to be homemakers and busy in the home. That by no means that, I'm saying women shouldn't work at all. I believe that there are several opportunities for women to work. I still do some work part time. here and there. So I'm not saying don't work. I just really believe that my mandate is to my home first. And if anything ever gets in the way of that or hinders my ability to pour into that the way that I should, then to me, that's the first thing off the chopping block. Like, because at the end of the day, I believe this is a main area that God is going to hold me accountable for. And I want to make sure that I please Him in doing it. And ladies, just a reminder, the reasons that I'm going to lay out here are specific and very personal to me. Probably doesn't need to be said, but just in case, I'm going to say it. This is the way that I believe God in this season has called me to obey his word, but his voice for me and my family. There were things that happened that really brought to light that I needed to really focus on my home and my kids in a very particular way. And that meant staying at home and being with them and just doing things that way. However, that's not the exact picture that everyone is going to have when it comes to what God is calling you to do in obedience to Him. So seek Him, seek His face, seek wise counsel when it comes to this. I'm not necessarily, I don't want to do this thing of like picking sides between women going to work and women being in the house. Both situations are homemaking women that can make an amazing atmosphere for their family. And I'm just making this video to encourage you in whatever step that is of obedience for you and your family and your situation, because it's beautiful and it's meant to be. So yeah, let's get into it. But the next thing is agreement with my husband. So we had we kind of started talking about a family vision. Things shifted for us in 2022. It was a roller coaster. I mean, more dips, I feel like, than ups. But we really started honing in because of that season and talking about our family vision and where we wanted to be years to come and what we felt like God might be calling us to do as a family. And this thing in this season, being a homemaker, I'll always be that for my entire life, for the rest of my life. But doing it in this way was really, really what we had agreement on in this time. So that's really important, obviously, to have your spouse on board, because if they're not on board, then this doesn't, I don't know how this really works. Another reason I did it was because I saw the way that culture was going and society was kind of pushing, and I really didn't like it. It's really important to me to prioritize family, and I believe today's culture has kind of gotten away from that. Not just kind of, but definitely strongly. Both of me and my husband agree that we need to be a united front when it comes to parenting our children, providing great education for our children. And we just didn't want to miss our priorities in the rat race of life, which I feel like is easy to get distracted in today's world. It was also redefining my viewpoint of success. So I think the world today kind of gives this idea through feminism and some other just in general, like social media. There's this idea of success for a woman and this idea that she needs to be independent from a man, and that she needs to like charge the corporate ladder or run her own business to be a female boss. And if that's what the version of success is to the world today. I wanted to make sure that I defined success for myself, which I would view biblically. Like, what is God going to ask me about at the end of my life and hold me accountable for? And those are the first things on my list. And so I just knew I want to pour all that I can into this. Not to say that women shouldn't have careers or follow their passions, and God's given us gifts as well. He's given us creativity. He's given us different strengths. So we should definitely be able to offer that and serve the world with those things. The next one would be education. The legislation that's being released about certain practices that are so anti-God, so honestly, just anti-Christ. And because of that, they're anti the wellness of people. So I want to make sure I am raising up a generation in my own home that is contributing to society in a healthy way. And so, in order to do that, I do believe we need to take the reins. I think when I was growing up, it was a little bit easier to trust certain things because you had private schools and things like that. But I would say even the format of how you learn in those institutions doesn't facilitate much conversation for things to be truly learned and to develop critical thinking, but more so memorization. And I'm a key, just I'm an example of that. But yes, I definitely, because of the moral just trajectory of today's educational system and legislation, but then also wanting to use skills and options that will allow my sons and daughters to think critically about things and not just try and check the box of like, okay, now I know this word and now I know this definition and now I know this, whatever it is. I'm dedicated to basically learning how to facilitate that well. And I think it'll, in effect, help everyone, but also me in the long run. So, yeah, it's really important that we don't become so dependent on government to do these things for us. We're trying to be people who, whether the things shut down or whether they don't shut down, we're still moving and pumping out, stuff. What stuff? I don't know, but God will reveal it in time. So how's it going right now? I've been, I would say I've been like a stay-at-home mom in this fullness for maybe like 6 months, maybe 6 to 7 months. And so how I would say that it's going right now is awesome. There are challenges just from having two under two and me just as a mom learning that entity. And this is the first time I would say within the last month that I learned what the word was that I was searching for when it comes to really pouring into the atmosphere of my home. And it was called homemaking. And I kind of didn't really link the two together until recently. So this is I'm a newbie at this. I'm just now trying to figure out what works for our family, like what works for my kids, how to still engage with them at the stages they are now, how to make sure that I can take care and clean things, but also like creating an atmosphere of worship, making it something where I want prayer and worship to be very normal in my home and not necessarily this thing that we just show up to on Sunday to do. I want my kids to see my husband and I doing that. But I want to facilitate a very welcoming, warm environment, but that is very open to conversation and not afraid of confrontation. So there's just all these things that I want to set a precedence in my home for. And I know it's going to be a journey. Like I said, I'm still new at it. I'm like still at the point where I'm trying to figure out like, how do I keep the house clean? Like it's literally like I'm taking baby steps. I didn't, you know, it just is. I didn't realize how much my mom did until I became a mom, especially a mom of two. And then I was like, oh my gosh, how was she doing this? But it made me have so much respect for her. And if you're a mom out there, please leave me your tips. If you have like, you know what it's like to have multiple kids, sleep training, how to manage and juggle the home. If you have little tidbits of wisdom, please leave them in the comment section. I am totally open to hearing different things because I know everyone in every house is different. So yeah. Thank you so much for tuning into this video. If anything resonated with you, let me know. Like, subscribe, all of those things. I'm going to be sharing extra things about holistic, healthy things for the family. Also, just my journey with becoming a better homemaker and learning what that means for us. So thank you so much and see you next time.